Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Performance Anxiety Podcast on the Pantheon Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mark. And today, Ellen Southern and Tom Bush of Dead Space Chamber Music join me to discuss the new album. But it's not just another rock album. Through our discussion, we all decided that the band is the only band in the dark neoclassical ambient jam band genre. But how did they get to that point? Was it Ellen getting thrown out of orchestra at school? Or was it Tom's decision to study guitar at night? Regardless of what it was, Ellen and Tom give me a definition of what chamber music actually is and who the Led Zeppelin of medieval music was. They also reveal some of the strange items that they use as instruments to create the right atmosphere within the music. You can really hear all of that in their new album, The Black Hours. Pick it up on Bandcamp as a digital download, CD, or vinyl, which will be available this spring. Follow them on Instagram at Dead Space Chamber Music. Follow us at Performance ANX. And you can support us through ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety or with merch at performanceanx.threadless.com. Now pour a mead, summon ye old podcast player, and enjoy my discourse with Ellen and Tom of Dead Space Chamber Music on the Pantheon Podcast Network. Forthwith!
Of course.
How do you want to do it? Want to say?
I'm Tom from Dead Space Chamber Music on Performance Anxiety Podcast. And this is...
And I'm Ellen from Dead Space Chamber Music. Oh my God. You got to take that one. You nailed it. That's reassuring.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Ellen, and we're from Dead Space Chamber Music. And we've got our new album, The Black Hours, coming out. And you are listening to Performance Anxiety Podcast.
Let's see. There we go.
Hey.
Now you can see exactly what I look like first thing in the morning.
Yeah, because it's 7 a.m., right?
Yeah. But I actually kind of like doing these in the morning. So it's actually quite a real fun way to start the day. I love talking music, so I love this. Now, I will be tipping on my coffee, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got some
Or
as well,
possibly it's my new sponsor, Tiesta Tea. So who knows? I'm not going to tell them which one it is. So thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm sorry to hear Katie's not feeling so good. So, we won't talk about her too much. Just a little.
Yeah.
What I like to find out is how you guys, first of all, your music is so unique. It's so wild.
Thanks.
Thanks.
And I was almost late to the Zoom because I was listening to it again and I kind of lost track of time.
Oh, all right. That's good.
So all of a sudden I see, you guys have entered the Zoom chat. I'm like, oh crap, I got to get my mixer on. I got to get everything. I got to get the program up. So.
We were early.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only by 2 minutes. So I'm like, holy crap. All right. So what I like to find out is how you guys got to the point you're at. I mean, music is something that you guys are obviously very passionate about. Ellen, we can start with you. How did you get into music in the first place? Was that something you've been doing your whole life, or did your parents get you into it through lessons that you didn't really want in the first place, or?
Me personally, no. I basically, I did actually play cello when I was a kid. And that was why when we started with Dead Space, there was just us to start off with, and our priority was to get a cellist.
Oh yeah.
So I love the it's just so expressive and mournful.
Yeah.
But I got thrown out of the orchestra at school because I couldn't. Yeah, because basically I learned years later that I have dyspraxia because the notes were jumping around a lot on the music.
Wow. Okay.
So I got through a couple of exams because I learned it by ear and just pretend. I used to move my eyes along, pretend I'm reading the music.
Wow.
Yeah, I got through a couple of exams like that. But
that is impressive, though.
Yeah, and as soon as they put me in the orchestra, that was it, because you can't hear the stuff before, So it's just so I got chucked out then. I got busted. Anyway, so and because I grew up in Wales, where singing is a competitive sport. It's hardcore.
Really?
Yeah, certainly at school level, you literally compete and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, so it was really good because I loved it, but also if you're seen as good, you kind of don't want to be because then they push you. So basically, I went towards visual arts, and I spent most of my time until I was 30 doing visual art. But always at the back of my mind, I wanted to pursue music, and those experiences when I was young sort of delayed it, I guess. And then I got to a point where, you turn like 30 and you're just like, right, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I went on a couple of like night classes, night courses, joined some choirs, learned to read music, which was a big achievement. Learned to rap and stuff like that. So that's how I got into it. And it's mainly through choirs because I was so nervous. I was in a Welsh language choir, a folk choir, classical choir, gospel choir. I just tried everything basically because what I wanted to do was develop my voice, but not in any particular style.
Okay.
So I'd be free to use it properly like an instrument, like to just know, explore it, exploring it. So what I wanted was the basic technique, but then to be left alone to develop my own. And I think that coming from the choir background in that way, I like it because I think when we're playing live and when we're recording and stuff, I always say, don't put the voice too high in the mix. Because, like the default, a lot of sound guys or girls, they'll just put the voice up like that.
Right.
I want us to all be equal, like I'm in the music with everybody else.
Like
and
your voice is an instrument.
Yeah. And I think that comes from the choir thing, and that, because you're singing as part of something else. You're not a soloist in a way.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the aesthetics that I think has resulted from us that way. And just this sense that we're like chamber music, this idea of a quite intimate, quite close, inward facing group of people who are creating something together, with everybody with equal part. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to have some questions about chamber music, and I'm definitely not going to try to pronounce these songs in Welsh because I don't want to offend anybody or make a fool of myself at this, So I may be referring to track 2, the one that starts with 2 L's. So we'll see how they go. I will apologize if I mispronounce things. I'm gonna try not to even attempt it. So I'll let that up to you. But I do love the Welsh language. I mean, it's so unique, and I love hearing it sung. It's really
it's a singly language because, like Italian or something like that, it's very vowely.
Yeah, and yet there seems to be no vowels in it, which is very strange.
There's a lot of consonants. That's true.
But then they get pronounced like vowels.
Yeah. So
which is confusing.
But it's a fascinating language. It was nice. I used to feel a bit like, I grew up with that language and English both, and I thought, I wish it could be a more useful language. But
is that common though? Is it common in Wales to grow up learning both?
Yeah, there's a lot of effort to bring it back from like the 70s on. So It was a very conscious thing. And now I'm really pleased about it. It wasn't so useful when I first started traveling in Europe.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I'm really pleased about it. It's a fascinating language because, as I understand it, it's basically the remnants of a language that goes back, very, very far, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But it's the remnants of a language that used to be sort of pan-European.
Oh, wow.
And it's just so it exists in Wales because that was like a pocket where it retained. Yeah. So it's for me, it's obviously connected to it's connected to Wales, obviously. But what I like about it is that it's the remnant of something that would have been spoken across the whole of Europe. So it's not a cut off thing. It's like that.
And from what I understand, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, a little stubborn. Don't like to give things up. I'm mostly Irish, so I can understand that.
Oh, yeah.
So chamber music, I'm familiar with the term, and I know a lot of people are familiar with the term chamber music, but what exactly is it? How is it defined in a band setting? I'm not really sure how, because the band's name is Dead Space Chamber Music. I'm not even sure how to phrase that question, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, chamber music. It's a bit of a tricky question to answer. I suppose it was more just about the general concept of chamber music, in that it's quite maybe it's a bit more introverted in some way than other musical styles. So this is where it kind of starts to sound a bit pretentious, perhaps. But there's something more about a kind of an inward focus, maybe with chamber music. It tends to be maybe a bit less dramatic, a bit less.
Is it have to do with the musicians facing each other while you're playing and?
Yeah. More of a focus purely on the music, I guess.
Okay. So not an audience-facing thing,
right?
And I suppose as well, because it developed in chambers, in rooms, in private houses, that sort of vibe where you're looking at each other and it's almost like, it's musicians' music, isn't it? It's like, and you're challenging each other to do the best you can and bringing out the best in yourself by the challenge of, hang on.
Sure.
Yeah. And also,
that's not the great tone I was expecting from you guys.
Yeah, that's not one of ours. We haven't branched out into producing ringtones yet. But
sorry about that.
It's in the pipeline. Yeah.
It's that it evolved in that quite serious way.
Okay.
About and developing yourself as a musician in relation to your peers, and that sort of in a sort of intimate setting, which of course we were all thrown back into in the pandemic. We were all thrown into this, and it was funny with because we did a couple of live streams from here, and we had to get like recordings of the other two and stuff, and still find a way to work together and it sort of brought it back to that sort of idea of those roots.
That had to be very difficult. I've seen some other bands do things like that, and that had to be really hard to sync. I know with lag times and buffering, and is that something that you guys were able to do successfully live?
When we were streaming, that was already complicated enough without having Katie in another, Liz in another. So what we did was they sent us recordings and then we played them and then we played live.
Oh, cool.
So it kind of emphasized the absentia vibe, because we could hear them playing and we could play with them, but they weren't there, and that it made it even more poignant in a way.
So the other two are Liz Paxton on cello and Katie Mert on percussion, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Tom, we haven't gotten into your history yet. How did you get into music? Was guitar the first instrument that you learned, or was it more of a classical background?
It was the guitar first, and it's a fairly standard story there. Like it was rock stuff, and it was all the typical stuff. Like absolutely no surprises. Like when I was a teenager, like when I was about 15, it was basically like Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, just the kind of stuff that you'd expect. Like a lot of teenagers when they start playing guitar, it's that kind of thing,
right?
And and even though I've kind of got into different stuff over the years, I've sort of never really lost sight of that stuff. It's I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, I listened to that kind of thing when I was a kid, and now I'm into more interesting stuff or whatever. Right. I still like that stuff. But then when I was about 20, I sort of thought, well, I'm really, music's like my main passion, so I want to like study it properly. So then I started like learning. I started playing the classical guitar probably when I was about 20.
Wow!
And I know. So what can happen is like that's sort of the other way around to how it is with a lot of people. Like maybe when they're a kid, they have to do some stuff on the classical guitar, and then when they get older, then they kind of get into like rock stuff or metal or whatever. But yeah, I was kind of the other way around. It wasn't until I was about 20 that I started playing the classical guitar and did like a college music course where I had to do like a jazz ensemble, and I'd never really played jazz before, but then I had to do it there.
You didn't get kicked out, did you?
No, I survived. I survived. Yeah.
So how did you guys meet?
Well, it was at this at the college, which was it was night school basically.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So so like evening classes for adults.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a really good place, Morley College, where it's kind of it's subsidized, so it means that it's affordable for working people. And
I did the same kind of thing.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, to get my bachelor's degree.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Because it was really exciting because, people from all walks of life, but what they had in common was often, well, like definitely like me, it's like something they've wanted to do and, they haven't done it yet and they're still, and they're a grown up, but it's never too late. And, and in between your work, you can go in the evenings and just learn. I just think it's fantastic. So, and they had rehearsal rooms there that you could book.
Oh, awesome.
So, so for example, I was learning doing singing, and I thought I need someone who plays a harmony instrument just to kind of jam with, try out some stuff. So found someone who plays guitar.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was years ago. That was 2008 or 2009 or something like that.
That's a while ago now, yeah.
And we quite quickly realised that, we shared a passion for early music, medieval Renaissance period music, because they were doing classes on that, history, music history classes there as well. So we were both learning that as well. So it kind of all came together like that way, yeah.
Very organically. So how did you guys decide that, and I'm assuming you were playing, like Tom, were you playing in other more standard rock type of bands at the time, or were you just studying this music? Yeah,
there were. I've been in a few bands, but it was nothing that was like too serious or really went anywhere. I mean, it was mainly, I suppose, I was mainly focusing on like the stuff that I was doing at the college.
Okay.
Like the kind of ensembles that I was in there. And then I went, after that, I then went to university in London, Birkbeck, which is a similar thing. They do like evening courses and things. And I did composition there, which was, basically it was like, you study certain pieces by classical composers, and then they say like, okay, off you go now, you try and write something similar. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was kind of focusing on that sort of stuff.
That's what mainly. Okay, so it sounds like you guys are studying this, and so the direction of the band was a natural thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really think if there was like any, one definitive point where we thought like, right, this is what we're going to do. It just kind of happened. I think like with the kind of being interested in early music, there's one composer like. English Renaissance composer John Dowland, who, in that kind of area of Renaissance music, he's one of the most famous. And there was one particular song that we both liked. So we did an arrangement of it, which was Flow My Tears, which is we recorded it on the first album, but we'd already had a go with that song like years and years before, just because we liked the song. Yeah. That's sort of all there is.
That's
all
awesome.
There is to it, really. Developed from just studying this stuff.
I went back and I listened to all the stuff that's on Bandcamp and the stuff that I could find on YouTube and it's really wild. It's kind of like, and I've had some ambient people on the show, ambient musicians before. So what they kind of stress is, at least the few that I've had, is that their music is to relax and be calming and joyful. I don't exactly get that from you guys. What I get is like your music is unsettling, which to me is amazing. It's a very unique approach to the style of music, and I don't even know if you would consider what you guys do ambient, but it's got a very different feel to it, and like I said, it's very cinematic, almost something that would be in a thriller or a horror movie.
Yeah,
and the kind of, I don't watch horror movies. I'm not into them at all, but I like the music, the soundtracks, and all. So,
yeah. So we love horror movies, and we'd love to do film stuff.
Well, yeah, done a couple of like fairly kind of low key soundtracks where we played along live too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The first one we did was there's the film Black Sabbath, where Black Sabbath got the name from, and it's like a 3-in-1 thing. And then the final one, which is probably like the scariest one, has hardly any dialogue in it. So we thought, okay, that'd be a fun one. Just we'll kind of fiddle around with a few ideas and come up with our own soundtrack. And Liz, who's the cellist, she studied composition for film, so where they had to kind of like improvise along to like short films and silent films and stuff. So she's completely at home doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Was that something that you guys did live? You tracked it live in front of an audience and played? Oh, wow.
There's like a tiny independent cinema here in Bristol, 20th Century Flicks. Hey. It's the oldest video shop in the UK.
Wow.
And the longest running since the 80s. And they've got a little kino, a tiny little cinema. So we were all in there and we did that. And it's very, very tense, very drawn out, tense thing with this thing at the end where it all goes horrible.
Oh, wow.
So we love that tense atmosphere. And then also on the new album, the piece, The Pit, that started off as a live soundtrack that we did to a version of The Pit and the Pendulum. So the Poe film. So yeah, like this is actually and something we'd like to explore more. And it gets said a lot, like to us, like, oh, wow. So yeah, like, should do some more stuff with film and yeah, we definitely would. But what you were saying before about the ambient thing, I know what you mean, because when you have to think of tags and you have to think of genres and like, oh, what genre? It's like, oh God, we don't know what genre we are. But
it can be tough. Yeah,
ambient is a funny one because we keep coming and it's like, should we put that? It's like we never do, because I don't think of us like that. I think there is something unsettling, unnerving, and also we've got massive, massive respect for people who study early music and do, performances that try and make it as accurate to the time as possible, like period stuff.
Right.
There's people all over the world who do that and specialize in that. It's a really, amazing, rich thing. But what we wanted to do was different. It was take music from that time, which when you see it written, it's more like a jazz score than anything else. It's supposed that you're going to interpret it. It's not like classical in terms of all the performance directions. So it's quite free in that way. And what we wanted to do with it is, from my perspective, is make it visceral, because when you see that it's historically accurate performances and stuff like that, there's certain conventions that have settled, which, as I say, we love, and I love going to see the and all that. But we sort of thought, let's try something a bit different, where here's the voice of someone, or here's a melody that made people dance hundreds of years ago. It's a banger, and it's a banger now if you present it as a banger, or here's something that made people cry hundreds of years ago and it can make them cry now. And so it's that visceral, embodied, it's not historical, even though it is, do you know what I mean? It's what we want to do is live it and breathe it and not try and pretend we're in the past, but we are here now. But one thing I personally love about words, I love exploring different languages and words, learning by ear. And what I love is the idea that you're like haunted by someone when you're singing words that someone wrote hundreds of years ago. That's why I don't write my own words, because it's that, what is it, Oscar Wilde, give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. It's like if I inhabit a song that someone else has written, I feel those words really strongly
channel it and bring it forward into the present.
It's not just you, it's you and this person hundreds of years ago and everyone else who's ever heard it and been moved by it. So you're more like channeling something, but you're also telling the truth because you're telling it through yourself. So so it's kind of bringing it to life. And the way that we structure our performances as well, what we really like is to move one piece into another and sort of go, so you can travel through all these different sort of like a journey of different moves. And it can be really rhythmic and pounding, but it could be really eerie, or it could be really something else. But it's sort of one goes into other. So there is a sort of form of almost theatre to it in that way, but like experientially. So just to say ambient doesn't really, I think we've got a lot of full-blooded stuff as well. But even the stuff that's not necessarily fast or anything. I think what you were saying about the atmosphere of it, I like there to be a tension to it.
Yes, that's the word. And like you're saying, changing things around and interpreting, like the song you did, Lacrimae. And tell me if I'm reading this correctly, that you guys had 2 songs on the first album, and you ended up combining them and taking the words from one and the music from another and making something new.
And that's something that gets done in, as I say, these kind of early music worlds, and that's a thing that people have done for hundreds of years. They've taken the words from one thing and a melody, and then you've got
look at God Save the Queen and God Bless America. Same damn song.
That would be our anthem for today.
Yeah, exactly.
And then actually, that same tune, or is it that one? No, it might be Star Spangled Banner was like an English drinking song, I think, with like completely different.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
To it.
I mean, hey, we still do. So.
Good.
So just go to any sporting event here, and
people are still drinking to it.
Half the time, by the time we're saying that before the game, everybody's basically plastered.
Good.
So
in fact, that's funny you mentioned, because I was thinking the other day, actually, that's one area we haven't gone into is drinking songs. And there's a whole history of it. So next album might have a drinking song on.
That would be amazing. Wow. You guys interpreting a drinking song would that would be why. That might freak people out, but that might be worth it. It might be a good thing. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I want to take a minute and talk about our sponsor, Tiesta Tea. Tiesta is a tea company on a mission to create loose-leaf tea beverages with premium ingredients that taste good and do good. Each tea is blended for one of 5 categories, so you can energize, slenderize, boost antioxidants, boost immunity, and relax. My current favorite is Blueberry Wild Chow. When I was growing up, my dad always told me, once you go loose, you never go bagged. And you know what? He was right. Go to tiestatea.com and use the promo code anxiety15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. You think you know tea? You haven't tried Tiesta Tea. How do you guys choose the music that you're going to work on or interpret? Because there's a lot of stuff. I see that you are, you take music from medieval, Renaissance periods and interpret that. But like you said, a lot of lyrics are either taken from or inspired by books, and not all of it's old. I mean, you've done a song based on Lovecraft story. it just stuff that whatever strikes you a certain way, or are there certain periods that you like to focus on?
I think there is something. I think like following your instincts is sort of generally it's just good life advice in general, and it's definitely, and I think it's definitely true when it comes to music. Like often there'll just be something, I might hear something and then I don't know what it is, just something clicks and I think I think we could do something really good with this. So like it might, and then it just depends on what we might be listening to a lot of at the time. Like so if it's medieval stuff, if it's a particular kind of collection of medieval songs, there might be one that just has a particular melody that for whatever reason just like a kind of like a switch, like a light bulb thing where it's like, oh yeah, that'd be really good.
You start to almost hear what you could do with it while you're still hearing it. You're like, right. So we've got a list. But with the Lovecraft one, for example, we were pleased to be invited by Raphael, who's from Eighth Tower Records in Italy. Mm-hmm. He does a project called Unexplained Sounds, and he does these compilations where he'll approach you and say, "I'm doing one on this theme," and so it's kind of one we probably wouldn't have thought of. But then he said, "Oh, would you make a track for Lovecraftian?" And I was like, "Oh my god, okay, let's have a go." And so that was sort of how that one particularly came about. But we've done collaborations with other people, and as I say, he's actually invited us to be part of 3 compilations now. Oh wow! So it's kind of nice when people throw us something like that, and it's like, oh okay, so how do we do this then? So
it's fun. I mean, it's great to do stuff like that. I suppose, the Lovecraft thing is similar to like the film soundtrack stuff where like you've got material to respond to, like, so like a film or like, I mean, with the Lovecraft one, we took one particular story, which was, I can't remember what the name of the story is now, but it's I think like the music of Eric Zahn. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So we did like Nocturne for Eric Zahn or something where it's this guy in this kind of like attic room and he's like furiously playing the violin, and the violin is to ward off this kind of cosmic evil that's like coming in. And so we thought, well, that song has it's music is an element in the story. Okay. And so like various bands have done stuff. It's like a Swiss kind of slightly strange kind of experimental band. I think like Universe Zero, I think they're called. They'd done a piece based on the same Lovecraft story. So cool. I think it's a thing, bands have done stuff based on that one story. So it seemed like, okay, well, we'll have a go at this one and see what we can come up with.
And I did read somewhere that even though he wrote it about a violinist, apparently when he wrote it in his head, he heard it more like a cello. So that fitted really well. We could just say to Liz, like, go crazy. So what we did was we
based around her.
So we based it around her, and she's really strong with improvisation. So what we did was we took the story, we separated it into 4 sections. We chose 3 words from each section, and then each of us responded to those words in that sequence, and we put it all together. So that's how we did it. Yeah, so that was just one example of being like thrown like a curveball, and it's like, right, how does Dead Space Chamber Music do this? So, it was really good.
I was wondering how you guys came up with the name Dead Space Chamber Music.
I mean, there was some thought behind it. I think like, because we were just really into. Obviously, we decided like music and sound. That's the main thing that we're into. Mm-hmm. So, like a Dead Space Chamber is a place where there's no. If I remember this right, like there's no natural reverb. So
it's like a research space.
You hear sound in its purest form, not affected by reverb in a space. So you're hearing that sound in its purest sense, and then that's a Dead Space Chamber, and then you just stick music on the end, and then you get chamber music, which is also about this real focus on the pieces that are being played. So it kind of came from that, like trying to be a bit clever with words.
But also a Dead Space Chamber, apparently what I like about it, I'd love to be in one, but apparently it can freak people out because they can hear their blood
In the heartbeat.
And the heartbeat's really like you feel really like bodily, and I thought, yeah, I quite like that as well. That's quite unnerving,
unsettling space.
Unsettling,
to be in,
yeah.
That so
Hearing the blood flow.
So the name works on so many levels.
Yeah.
But that's a great. That's great because so many times I have people on. I'm like, hey, how did you come up with your name? Because it's interesting. Like, you know, we had 2 gigs booked and we needed a name, and we were gonna change it later, and we couldn't after that. So
yeah.
Hearing that there is thought behind it is actually the more unusual thing.
Oh, there we are.
So you also did a song based on Dante's Inferno. That was part of was that part of one of the other compilations you did for the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that was really good to do. So it was like there were 9 artists invited, and you had to pick a layer of hell. Yeah. So I think we chose the 9th. We chose the one with Satan in, and we were reading up on interpretations of that dimension and realm through history. And like now we think of it as flames, but hundreds of years ago they thought of it as cold, as ice.
Wow.
So we wanted to involve this kind of really cold sound, this cracking sound, which was done, Katie, with percussion by actually sprinkling screws and nails onto metal.
Wow.
And moving it around. So it's this kind of ice, because I think the idea is that Satan's in a block of ice and he's flapping his wings to escape.
Figure, yeah,
because he's like this really
mindless. Yeah, he's
mindless, like a
very different to what we would think now.
Yeah, it's like the tyranny that he's embodying is someone who's completely vapid. Is that vacant?
I think,
and so he's trapped in this ice, but he doesn't know why. He can't conjure his thoughts to release himself. He's kind of blindly,
he's like a prisoner. He's not really kind of in control of anything. And
he's flapping his wings to escape, but then that just sets him in deeper. So that it's that kind of hell, you know.
Okay.
And we thought, wow, that's amazing. So we wanted to make something that had that sort of space, that coldness, that fear, and sort of desperation, but remote, you know.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's how we approached it.
And that's one thing that I've noticed on Tom, particularly on a lot of your guitar toned. It's not the warm Marshall or Les Paul through a Marshall fuzz that it's like a harsh, cold, distorted tone a lot of times.
Yeah, I think on that one definitely. Yeah, it was the thing with that, because it was for the figure of Satan. So I think I took like the Deus Irae chant and played it backwards, and kind of messed around with it a bit, and then a lot of it is done like in the sequencing program. You can go in and obviously kind of manipulate the sounds and warp stuff and that kind of thing. So some of it does come from that. I mean, I tend to use an orange amp, which, you know, it's one of those kind of sort of classic rock type things. But yeah, I do use effects, but I'm not. I think you can go too far with effects.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the icy sound. Well, I mean, I use a Strat, which tends to be, it's got a more piercing quality. Yeah, it's not like a big kind of, you know, Gibson through a Marshall.
Right. Yeah.
The melody on that one as well, that is the Dies Irae reversed as well. So we're sort of mirroring there.
Oh wow. Okay. And in reading some of the descriptions on the songs, the choices are fascinating. The one that's coming to mind is "Oh Death, Rock Me Asleep." The history behind that song and how you guys explained it is just amazing. Are these songs that you guys grew up with knowing, or are you doing a ton of research to find something that's a little unusual, out of the ordinary?
Well, that one, I think it's in, as I say, in the early music scene. It's quite a hit. It's quite a well-known. Yeah. When we were first looking at this sort of thing, and I think I bought a really big, it's like an anthology of music by women, early pre-classical music by women and into classical. So there's scores in there, and it was one of the first ones in there. And I was like, wow, oh my God, because a bit of a fan of Anne Boleyn, but like she's a really interesting character to me. And I didn't know that she's very highly cultured, and I didn't know that she was a really good lute player. She was a poet. Wow. So basically it's a lute poem, supposedly. Wow. And you don't know, but supposedly, it was written when she was being held in the bloody tower, and it's attributed to her. And so you never know. Sometimes with history, has it sort of become something that it wasn't? But you don't know. I just found it very evocative. And when we first did it, it was quite. It was more. Well, we first looked at that when there was three of us with the cello, us and Liz, and then Katie joined us a couple of years ago. Obviously, just when lockdown was happening. So but we actually worked on that song with her again, and we approached it so that when we could do gigs again, we were gigging that song, but with drums. So it's kind of evolved, and we've put in this really heavy doomy bit at the end, because the first version we did of it grew to a climax. That's true at the very end, but we just took that idea and ran with it and made it really, really climaxy and really
awesome.
doomy. I'd like us to record the new version one day, maybe in a live session or something, because we play it live. We've played it live a few times now, and it's always quite electrifying.
Oh, it's on the Black City one.
Yeah, it's on the Black City Sessions release. Yeah. So, for example,
So you mentioned gigging. From what I've seen, a lot of the live shows that you've done that weren't just the streaming shows, they're performed in old churches and some place called the Crypt. Do you play exclusively in areas like that were built specifically for acoustics? I know old churches had to be before microphones and amplification. They were built specifically so priests could we could hear the priest. So is that someplace that you work exclusively, or do you gig in regular venues too, or do you care?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're lucky in Bristol that we started doing like an event series called Dark Alchemy. That there's this beautiful, amazing historic churches and crypt here in Bristol, and there's a charity that looks after them called the Churches Conservation Trust. So we were sort of doing concerts there, but raising money to help kind of maintain the buildings as well.
Okay.
And so it very much evolved with us, like our sound and who we are as a band really evolved because of playing in those spaces and bringing people into those spaces. Because like the crypt is right in the center of town, but people walk past it, they don't know it's there. So it's kind of part of the performative theatre of it is bringing people into these unusual spaces. And I think it's really evolved our sound as well, and how we relate to the audience, because it has that sort of sense of a ritual. You can have this hush before you play of like, it's kind of awesome. And, and I think it's definitely formed how we've approached performance. Like they're in this very, very special space, and it's like, right, you guys are going to go through a real trip now.
Yeah.
Okay, not you in there. And we're not letting you go until, you've been through all this stuff.
You're going to experience something.
Sort of thing. But yeah, we do play conventional places. We love it, actually. We're lucky in Bristol to have quite a good independent venue scene still, thank goodness, knock on wood. But yeah, very much. Anything to add?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's a very different experience playing in the sites like the churches and the crypt as it is to playing in like the regular venues. Yeah. Very, very different, but both are good.
Both are good
in their own way.
I've noticed with and going back to, are you guys ambient, or I've noticed a lot of ambient players end up playing in freaking weird places like caves and stuff. So that was another weird connection that I saw. So I had to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
fair
I think
enough.
loads of the people that we've had on when we've done the events, they're, I suppose, you call them dark ambient. A lot of them have been, I guess, that genre tag would be attached to it. Yeah.
You mentioned some weird, I guess, I don't even want to say instruments, it's just some weird ways to get noises, like nails and stuff on metal. What are you using? Because I've seen, is it just improvised at the time? Like, oh, this would sound good. Or because I saw somebody look like moving a broken plate around on amplifying those. How do you guys come up with that stuff? Is that through the training that you've had, just experience, just trial and error?
I think there's a kind of, it's a few things coming together, as I say, because of evolving ourselves through performing in these unusual spaces. As I say, that it kind of makes you want to expand the performance a bit, and get a real event to make it a bit of a ritual. So, and I think I'm a bit of a fan of Einstürzende Neubauten and how they use tactile sound and how you can see it.
Yeah, that's definitely in there. Yeah.
So things like that. I think it's a bit the art background as well, sort of thinking about performance in a certain way and like wanting to engage with like, look, there's this, you can see this sound being made.
Yeah.
And we tend to think about it in terms of like what would make an interesting sound for this particular piece, but how is it symbolic for that piece as well? So every what was it you mentioned? The broken china.
Yes.
Yeah, the broken porcelain, I should say, which has an amazing sound and it rings and it's incredible. But I do that on O Virtus Sapiente, which is our interpretation of a medieval chant by Hildegard von Bingen, who was this like visionary seer from medieval Germany. It's amazing. Her writings are incredible, really inspiring.
I've got her CD.
Oh yeah. I mean, she's,
I'm actually not even kidding. I actually have a CD.
yeah. Music world again, like she's known, it's very known, and she was all sorts of other things as well, like sort of what do you call it, like a diplomat almost, Anyway, so very interesting person. But this particular song that we've reinterpreted over to Sapiente, not only does it's just stunning in terms of the melody, but the words it's a call to wisdom. So it's about saying this is what you're presented with in life, and it's on you to make the wise choices. So it's an appeal for wisdom from people individually, So I find it a very direct and moving song, because I think these days, I don't know, any time in history, you do want, it's quite heartfelt to sing that. It's like, we might make right or wrong choices, but if we endeavor to be wise and not too quick to be wise and sort of, so it's like that. And I think, so at the start of the performance of that song, I tend to hold up a mirror and catch a light and then let the mirror light move and travel. And I often look around the audience with this light. And it's this kind of like looking clearly, seeing things, almost a scrying sort of thing, like a crystal ball almost, And then at the end of the song, I come and play the porcelain. It's often not needed even to mic up, because it's that resonant, and I move it around slowly. And it's that thing of like the broken pieces, this is what happens if we're not wise, if we can't take a step back, and it's broken pieces. So yeah, so that's an example of certain sounds that, the mirror is a visual thing, but that sound and it's all symbolic to what that. And I kind of like, that's in Latin, that song. So I don't expect people to be live translating it.
Right.
So challenge is to kind of convey what that song is about without people necessarily understanding the Latin. And that's another way you can do it, is through that performative element. So that's an example of that.
Well, I'm playing that one for my daughter because she's a Latin tutor in high school, and so she loves that kind of stuff. So you guys were really busy during the whole pandemic lockdown. You had streaming. You had a bunch of releases of the live streams and stuff. You also started your second album and ended up releasing it. But you started it before everything really kind of, I guess, hit the fan, didn't you?
Yeah, we started it in November 2019.
Okay.
And on the album, they are in the sequence that we made them. So that was from November 2019. Wow. And those sounds are literally the first sounds that Katie made with us.
Wow.
She's actually coming around to have a guitar lesson with Tom. And we were like, I was going around the flat, like banging radiators, and I'm like, oh, we need a sound. And it's like, hang on, Katie's coming around. She's a drummer. So we handed her some, bits and bobs, and she did the percussion on that sound right there. We had a tape machine and we had the digital, and we combined them. So yeah, and that was just like something metal from the kitchen. I don't know,
wow,
but
wow.
Yeah, it's like a metal box thing. But yeah, so that was the start of the album basically. And
did you guys intend to do the album sequentially like that, or was it just, we're done and it kind of works?
Yeah, I think it just, again, like that was just something that organically developed.
Wow.
Being planned.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
It was very strange. We did, when you could go into recording studios again, we did travel to London, and it was still really, we hadn't been anywhere, and it was really strange and hot, and everyone, it was like people in masks and everything, and it was just so surreal. And then by the time we got to the last song, it was this summer, so things felt like they were easing, and so you had this time, it's more reflective, a bit melancholy. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, like everything we do, including the visuals, we try and make it symbolic of the thing. And the cover of the album, it took me quite a long time to know what I wanted it to be, what form, because I knew I wanted it to be an image that was a bit striking, but I didn't know what. And then this idea of the wreath that's also a crown came around, because it took me all the way till it started easing a bit, and you could start to reflect and start to feel this melancholy, because you started to think, what have we lost, So, and I just thought, like the idea of a wreath is like, because everybody's lost something over this time. We've all lost something.
Yeah, for sure.
But then also a crown, because we've all kind of made it through. So you deserve a crown.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like both of those things together. And it took me quite a long time to get to that. But I think it's just until we were in that headspace last summer, it just wasn't there yet. And then how that felt at that time, that's what defined it. I was like, right, that's it. So yeah.
So the album is called The Black Hours. Would you define this as maybe a concept album?
Probably, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
So what ties everything together?
Well, the name is from a prayer book that is from 1500s Belgium. I think it was handmade, and it's one of the books of hours. So there's a few of them surviving. I think this particular one that inspired us is held in New York in a museum.
Okay.
But it's what they were basically personal prayer books that a lot of people had. I mean, obviously you had to be a bit wealthy back in the day to have. But I've seen like
able to read.
Footage, but I've seen footage of like Anne Boleyn's personal prayer book. And for example, and people used to like write little things in it's quite an intimate object. And so if you're lucky enough to have one, it's something that you would, it would take you through the prayer hours through the night, because, there's certain prayers that you would say at certain hours through the night.
Right.
So something was happening in your life and you wanted to turn to that, then that's there for you. And it's full of miniature paintings and really beautiful. Wow. I mean, it's on black vellum, this particular one, the Black Hours. So it's on carved skin, I believe, that's dyed black. And then it's got silver and gold. pigment, and also turquoise, which was more valuable than either of those at that time. So it was that combination of the black and the turquoise, and it was just it's really striking visual artifact and personal thing. So, and I think we already had that idea before the whole pandemic thing, but then as it carried us through, it was just this idea of the black hours as like something that takes you through this dark time, and for us, music did that. It was just like leaning even deeper into that thing. Yeah. Because I don't know what I'd have done without music through the whole thing. It's like,
especially since you couldn't play anywhere.
Yeah. So we had to think of other things, and as you say, streams, collaborations, all sorts of stuff. Working on the album,
keep it going, somehow,
leaning in even more. And luckily here we've got a rehearsal room that as soon as it could open, because it was a professional space, RS Studios. Thank you, Steve. We were able to get back together and actually work on stuff, and we even recorded a stream there. So yeah, we were able to keep going. We found ways to keep going. Yeah, and it was more important than ever.
It forced so many people to be even more creative than you already are with your own work. You had to figure out ways to get it out to people who really wanted it. I mean, you guys do it professionally, that you need it and you love doing it. But to those of us who don't, we're just sitting there going, we can't go out either. I need something new, and I'm not making music in my room. I'm not that talented. So
yeah, it definitely felt like we wanted to step up and offer something. While it kept us going, I know from a fact, I know people have told me since, like, that stream you did, I was really down that week, and that got me through. People have said it, and it's I find that amazing. That is all we could ask, really.
So your music is helping people get through, and then the reaction from people is helping you guys get through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it just, it did all that was really real, and that was very moving.
So it's all interconnected, like the wreath on your cover. It's a big circle.
Yeah, big circle.
And what I love about the album is that each of the songs is connected by the tolling of bells. Is that symbolic for the hours?
Yeah, okay. That was to be this sort of marking the hours, and we actually recorded it because we're talking about the spaces that we've performed in. Yeah. We've actually gone with our sound guy Tom Berry, who records us. We've gone into various churches and crypts here, and we've recorded the impulse. So you've got the reverb of that space recorded. So even when we've recorded in studios, we've been able to take those places with us, if you like, and apply the reverb that we're actually used to live. And similarly, the actual tolling that you hear, it's just of the church just down the road, St. Mary Redcliffe, which is an incredible spire. Wow. And it just, it's we hear it very, very often in our daily life. So, and love going in there. So all of these things that, again, it's all stuff that relates to what we're doing and where we are and the kind of spaces that we use and hear regularly. So, yeah.
I'm really enjoying the album. I mean, so the first single was and I'm gonna do the English translation, the Bird on a Briar, or was it? No, it was Grey Mare was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one we released. Okay. Yeah.
Well, both of those tracks are so great. You're singing it in is it in Old English or is it because you're not singing Bird on a Briar. You're pronouncing it the old way.
Yeah. English. Yeah.
Yeah, Middle English. Yeah, that's right.
I think that's one of the things that makes it even more special to me is that it's the Old English or the Welsh for Grey Mare and Queen's Marsh. It's this is so great. I love lyrics in foreign languages for some. I don't understand what the hell you're saying, but I love hearing it.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I think one of my favorites is, and I'm not going to try to pronounce this, the last track 7.
Yeah.
Maybe I will attempt it. Is it Douce Colombe Jolie?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that one was, so that would be, I think the original one would be, that's a medieval French one. But the original tune is Douce Dame Jolie, which is Machaut, who's a medieval French composer. But like when it comes to early music and medieval music, he's like he's like the Led Zeppelin or something, really, like Beatles, he's like one of the big main guys, and then that's one of his most famous songs. I think, like when it comes to medieval music, that's one of the most famous tunes and one of the most often recorded and interpreted. So it's our version of it. But then like on would be a dove. So bird of peace and so on.
Yeah. So you guys say it sounds French. I say it comes out like New Orleans Cajun. So I don't know. I mean,
I can't do French. My French accent's non-existent.
It's much better than mine. I'll tell you that. With things opening up, are you guys planning on playing any shows in the near future, or do you mainly play locally, or do you get to tour around much?
Oh, it's mainly local. I mean, I'd have to think about that for a second. We've never played outside the UK.
Okay.
No. We'd love to.
Played a lot. I mean, we played a fair amount now in Bristol because we've been doing this for a while. We played a couple of times in London and once in Manchester, but that's it. It's been around Bristol only. Yeah, so it'll be good to go to some other places for sure.
Yeah, we were due to play in Berlin in April 2020. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But we were really excited about that. But it's something we're really keen to do. Yeah.
Well, I hope you do. I don't know if at what point I could ever get over there, but I would. I love the streams. I love watching the live performances that you guys have on YouTube. I would love to experience you guys live. It just sounds like it's not, it's not just a live show. It's an experience, and I would love to be there.
That is the plan. It's meant, that it's a whole experience. I mean, what we're talking about is in the new year, because obviously the new album's going to come out on vinyl, but there's these long queues in the pressing plants. Everybody's in the same situation. So probably the vinyl will be, we don't know, maybe April, something like that.
Okay.
So what we're thinking to do is perform the whole album and do one of those, like Dead Space Chamber Music plays the Black Hours kind of thing, and just do the whole thing, integrated thing in a church here around that time. So that's sort of a plan. It's not firmed up yet, but that's the idea. And hopefully by then, enough people would have heard it that they'd find that interesting, because obviously we can't stop ourselves. We'll probably be reinterpreting some of the songs again.
Well, that's awesome. I love that though. I love that, especially since the music is, I guess, since it's classical music and you guys are reinterpreting it in the first place, there's really a wide, I don't even know how I'm trying to say this. It's just so always open to reinterpretation. It's not like, if you go and see, I don't know, we'll just say the Rolling Stones, for example, you want to hear them do their song the same way that they've done it for 50 years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that from you guys.
No.
When you play live, is there a lot of improvisation, or is everything pretty much scripted out?
It ends up being a mix, I think. Again, like a combination of things which are I don't know, always done the same way. Like there's a strict arrangement for some bits, and then some bits it gets a lot more open-ended.
Okay.
but I mean, yeah, even with the improvisation stuff, I mean, often there's a basic template in place, or there's kind of like there's a basic plan
Okay.
as to where it's going to go, but then the improvisation happens around that. So then and that's, I mean, blues music is like that, I guess. There's the form, one of those form, improvisation happens around that. So it's similar. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, obviously we're not playing blues, but the general concept, like when the improvisation happens, we've got an idea of where it's going to go.
Yeah, so it is identifiable. When it's in the room. And that goes back, again, hundreds of years, like so early classical and pre-classical, there was much more improvisation, I think, than people realize.
Okay.
So again, it's true to that approach, but it might not be how you hear early music very often, but it's actually true to the approach. Yeah.
That's a good point.
But yeah, it makes it thrilling, and it makes it never quite the same twice. And we do lean into that. We do take advantage of that and enjoy that a lot.
So you're dark neoclassical ambient jam band.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Oh, at last, we found
a genre. Or created one. Well, guys, I've kept you for quite a while. Thank you guys so much. I've learned a lot, and I've enjoyed going through the back catalog all the way up to the new album, and it's been such a unique experience. I'm so glad and so grateful that you guys could join me.
Aw, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Where can people find you guys? Can they follow you on social media? How can they buy the album?
We've got a Bandcamp page, so I think it's dscm.bandcamp.com, I think.
Okay.
And then we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter thing. I think it will be on Spotify as well.
Okay.
I don't know much about Spotify, but apparently it will be.
We're on YouTube as well.
YouTube, and we want to work more on that side of things. We want to build up
the visual side.
The visual side. In that's one of the plans for the coming year, is to build the actual video side. We got more confident with it over, like a lot of people, having to tackle live streams and stuff. Yeah. So it got more visual. So for a lot of people. So video is something that we want to explore more next year.
So I imagine it'll follow the same style as the music. It'll be darkish, spooky, kind of unsettling.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
I'd count on that. I'd count on that. And luckily, like with everything, we can keep it sort of a bit in-house as well and make it all interconnected, because Katie, the drummer, she's actually a professional photographer and video person as well. She's and I come from an art background as well. So it was me and her who worked together on all the album artwork and everything, and worked on the videos over lockdown. So we've got the skills amongst us to kind of keep it all in-house and sort of very, very native to our thing, whatever it is that we're doing.
Yeah. Well, the artwork is always incredible. I that's one thing I forgot to mention is how, being a visual person myself, I actually am drawn into a lot of the artwork, like Nocturne for Eric Zahn and I'm going to butcher this, L'Imperador del Doloroso Regno.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful. I mean, we cannot take the compliments there, because those are the Eighth Tower compilation, and he always works with very beautiful visual artists. So it's one of the great things of being on one of those, is that we get to put that artwork on. But it also beautiful.
Yeah, it follows with like the Ocean Star artwork and I know that I get this. Limit me to port.
Yeah.
I'm getting better. But
I don't know how to say that one either. I avoid having to say the name.
I look at it, and even the words are beautiful, and I'm like, I'm going to butcher this so badly.
So
I know what you mean.
The drawings like that, for example, I've done. But they're very much, it's like the music, it's very much inspired directly from medieval manuscripts. It'll be like, I've seen an image or something like that. And I was like, wow, I'm going to draw my own version of it or something like that. So it's been there from the start, that side of it. Yeah, very interconnected, everything interconnected. It
matches the music perfectly. Everything is the logo for the, and you guys remastered the first album, added a couple extra tracks. And so that's available as well, which is so awesome. I know I have kept you for quite a while. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really have enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think us too. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for asking us.